Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, it's the 4-year anniversary since DJ Smith became the club's head coach. We'll get a quick analysis on how he's done in the position.
And we complete our top 10 prospect list for the Ottawa Senators with number 6 all the way to the top.
And only one of them did not play an NHL game this season. All that's coming up, and it's brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. It's the Game Time app. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 804 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Please like and subscribe wherever you download your podcast, including on YouTube, where that thumbs up is your best friend. Click it and leave a comment below. Who is your number one Sens prospect? We had a pretty short conversation about that, but we want to know if you have a dark horse or who could jump into that position for next season. Today is Tuesday, May 23rd, and Pilsy, any dream of Ryan Reynolds potentially owning the Ottawa Senators seems dead.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually respect this from Ryan Reynolds because the thing with the Neko Sparks group, who added more people to their consortium yesterday, 2 of the Dragons from Dragon's Den, you'd think that's big news, but it's really not. It's just another one added to the list. But the thing that's different about the Ryan Reynolds approach is since day one, since the news broke that the Ottawa Senators could be for sale, he wanted to be a major part of this, but he didn't just want to be a celebrity smiling in photo ops and shaking hands and kissing babies. He had a full plan of what he wanted to do and how he wanted to be a part of this ownership group, not just as a celebrity, but as someone that's actually involved with the operations and engaging with fans, trying to boost up the community of Ottawa and things like that. So he's not about to just hop on another ship and just take part in whatever that group is doing. He wanted to do things his way, and that didn't work out. And he said, hey, if we can't do things the way I want, I don't want to be a part of that. And I think that's fair, and I respect that.
Yeah, Bruce Garriock put out the article yesterday in the Ottawa Sun, and it makes sense from that perspective. The Remington Group, very heavy on the real estate aspect, so it makes sense they would have left the marketing and all that up to Ryan Reynolds. It's unfortunate. It was obviously a tease. It was so early in the process. It just felt like a slam dunk. It turned out to be a shot off the backboard and didn't even touch the rim, as they didn't even make a bid in the final moments leading in to May 15th. We're now May 23rd. Still no official announcement. We still believe it will be Michael Andlauer, but the bidding continues. And as you mentioned, the Neko Sparks group added more Dragons Den. Is this the first time that someone's pitched the Dragons on something they don't own?
Well, I think Dragon's Den, they can own percentages of it and they can work through different ways. Oh, I see what you're saying, though. Neko Sparks is pitching them, but he doesn't actually own the team. Yes, yeah, probably. And someone brought up on Twitter, I forget who it is, so I apologize, but it was a good point that what happens with all the people that were approached early on and they're like, your $10 million is going to be worth whatever, 2% or whatever, but then you keep adding on people. So aren't those ownership stakes being diminished now? And you're being like, hey, wait a second, I thought I was going to be such a majority owner, but now there's 100 more people, so my slice of the pie is even smaller. Again, I'm not a business expert. I don't know how that works, but that is something that came across on Twitter, and I thought, yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, how do all these additions affect the OG Neko Sparks group contributors?
I got to give Neko Sparks credit. This guy's doing a great job of dressing for the job he wants, not the one he has. His profile picture on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter is all at Sens Games. Him with a briefcase at a Sens game, standing out front of the arena. So he's already owning the Sens in his mind, and we'll see if the Dragons Den. I made an entire NHL lineup based on the amount of people who are in this bid. But anyways, we need a conclusion for that, but we will wait and see. Of course, we'll go live whenever that does happen. We'll be the first, hopefully, to do that, but we do believe it will be Michael Anlauer when the decision is made. Reminder, it is Tuesday after a long weekend, so although they were working through the weekend, it's not a surprise that no press releases were given. And hey, the bidding could still be ongoing, trying to drive the price up as much as they can. One person who is very curious to know what will happen once the ownership settles is DJ Smith, who 4 years ago today was named head coach of the Ottawa Senators. 4 years later, Pilsy, how do you feel about DJ Smith now versus then?
Well, before we get into that, I want to try to take myself and both of us and the listeners back to that day. It was quite a surprise that he was chosen, wasn't it? Like, I know there was a list of like 7 coaches, but I remember our discussions, and I can't remember who the front runners were necessarily, but I remember when DJ Smith was announced, I was like, huh, really? They're going with Toronto's old assistant coach after, and the guy that ran the defense after Melnick's comments about the Leafs forgot about one thing in their roster building. They forgot about defense. And then they bring over Nikita Zaitsev shortly after as well. So that was an interesting day. Do you remember who was kind of in the running there, Ross?
Pilsy, Twitter is the best and worst thing in the world. I have already pulled up the list of candidates that we have confirmed were in the running for the job, and we had DJ Smith 7th out of 7.
Yeah, I remember. Exactly. Yeah.
We had him 7th out of 7, Bills. We had Mark Crawford ahead of him, for crying out loud. Nate Lehman, Rick Bowness, Jacques Martin, Troy Mann, and Patrick Waugh were the other names. So those were the 7 names associated with the Ottawa Senators head coaching decision. That's wild. I didn't realize we had DJ Smith 7 out of 7.
Yep, so confirmed. That was a surprise for the two of us here on this show. But you know what? Looking back, I'm going to stand by DJ Smith. I like him as a coach, and I think he was the right guy, at least for the time that he's been here so far. Will he be the right guy moving forward? That remains to be seen. It's all going to depend on the first 15 game sample size of how this season starts. But I'm going to be positive, Pilsy. I got the bucket hat on today for those just listening, so I'm in a good mood. I'm saying I feel good about DJ Smith, and he's earned the right to have a chance to try to have a legit playoff roster and try to lead them into the playoffs. So congrats, DJ Smith, on 4-year anniversary with the Ottawa Senators.
And we belated birthday, too. Happy belated. DJ Smith turned 46 10 days ago. So now, I mean, you look at the finishes are tough in the division, right? 7th, 6th, 7th, 6th. That needs to improve. But what has improved, at least year over year in the last 2, is the winning percentage has actually increased dramatically finally. It was .437 in year 1, .455 in year 2, .445 in year 3, but again, that's going from an 82 game sample, 56 game sample. This year was up at .524, and that's not like we're, setting off fireworks and dancing and being joyous. That's what we need. You need way more than 86 points to get into the playoffs.
Yep.
But look what happens when you can get in. The Florida Panthers are showing that right now. But this team, I like I said, 12 game samples, the most I'm willing to give here. If they're not coming out of the gates flying, like we've very much been hard on the last few years, they need to come out of the gate hot. They know what they need to do. There has to be consequences if they fail to do it this year.
Yep, and that's the thing. It's Ross. What's that quote from Wrexham that you really latched onto? The standard. Yeah, go ahead.
The standard isn't like adequate anymore. It has to be pushed higher.
Exactly, and I think that's where the Ottawa Senators are at, and especially Ross, with new owners coming in, I can't anticipate they'll be stoked about a season out of the playoffs with the money they've spent and the way the salary cap is going to be pushed up for the Ottawa Senators this year, and with expectations. So I think we're going to see a very different, the goalpost has moved dramatically for the Senators this season.
Well, the prospect pool has moved dramatically over the last 4 years as well. I wonder if we could pull up 4 years ago who the top 10 Sens prospects would be, because Brady had already graduated and they didn't have a top pick in 2019. So if we were doing this right now in 2019, I guess it would have been before the draft. So you'd be looking at kind of Drake Batherson, and Josh Norris would have been in the mix. That would have been one too.
Eric Brandstrom.
No, Brandy wasn't there until he would have just been in the mix.
He would have just got there. Yeah, I think the one we should try to find is after the 2020 draft. Yes. That'll be the interesting one to see where we had guys slotted before they had any kind of clout. Yes, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
So yesterday on the show, we gave you prospects 7 through 10. Last Friday, we went around the world of Sens prospects with the guys who just missed the cut and could very well be on this list the next time we do it, which will be, I believe, right at the start of next season. Maybe, no, we'll wait till December, like right before World Juniors, because not much is going to change over the summer except for some potential graduates. But today, we are doing prospects 6 through number 1. That's all coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, the presenting sponsor of this podcast. And anytime I'm going to be looking to go to any events, I'm up in Collingwood, so most of my big events will be down in Toronto, but I can go to Jays games. I can go to concerts. Just saw Blink at Scotiabank Arena. That was awesome. I want to check out some theater stuff, maybe some comedy, some of the big comedians coming through town, and I'm going to do it all on Game Time because you guys know me. I don't like a lot of stress. I'm not a big planner, so Game Time is perfect to get your tickets easy, fast, and on time. Killer deals on last-minute tickets and best price guarantee. You can get the view of your seats before you buy, so you're not surprised when you get there. And you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 1-2 taps, and they're on your phone. No need to dig through emails or forget your password or anything like that. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL, and you're going to get $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off, and have fun at your event. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Owl & Co. Owl & Co. Grooming, a local company that wants you to feel your best. Make sure that you get that next level nourishment from your skin and that nice long-lasting scent that will make people who are around you say, oh, that smells amazing. What is that? That's you. And their starting lineup includes hair tonic, sea salt sprays, and utility bombs. It's versatile, and it has something for everyone. All of the products at Owl & Co. Grooming are made with natural ingredients such as coconut oil and sweet almond oil. It ensures that your skin's getting the nourishment that it needs. These products are all made by hand in small batches in Ottawa. Support local, so you know they're going to be made to the highest standard. There's no cutting corners. Carefully chosen ingredients like shea butter are safe for sensitive skin. So go outside your comfort zone and start with these products every single morning. You'll see that creating a grooming routine can be something that you really look forward to. Owl & Co. Grooming is an Ottawa company. Chris Sinclair, great Sens fan, loves the team, loves the show. So go support local and get yourself some next level nourishment. Go to owlandcogrooming.com. Find them on Instagram, Owl & Co. Grooming. They're also on Twitter. And for Sens fans, because you're a listener of the show, your discount code for you. Senators15 at checkout will save you 15% off your next order. Can't wait to hear what you think about Owl & Co. Go check them out, owlandcogrooming.com. All right, Pillsy. This third round of the Stanley Cup playoffs has been awesome. The teams, maybe not the most household names, the Floridas, the Carolinas, the Vegases, and the Dallases of the world, but the hockey's been great. Every single game, it feels, is one goal. One goal here, one goal there. It's awesome. But Pillsy, the biggest story was not on the ice yesterday. The Senators, of course, overshadowing the playoffs at every turn.
Obviously.
Brady Tkachuk in attendance. And I don't have any time to hear people say, I thought he says he wasn't going to go to any games this year. No. He's living his life. Let him live. And not only living his life, we know how big of golf fans all these hockey guys are. He got to drink out of the PGA Championship trophy in Brooks Koepka's suite last night. That was hilarious.
Yeah, all-time classic Brady Tkachuk moment. I mean, Brady's got to practice drinking out of trophies. He's going to have a lot of experience of that going down the road. So why not practice with the golf one in the off season? And yeah, that's the thing. Like, obviously, you'd rather have Brady on the ice and Matthew Tkachuk in a box drinking out of a golf trophy. Sure, if you're a Sens fan, but let the guy live. He's having fun. Fun's not illegal where I'm from or in Florida either, so I'm okay with it.
So Chicklets posted the video clip, and you can find it on Twitter at Sens Central as well. And Matthew Tkachuk replied and said he's back.
Yeah. Oh man. And hey, it's summer. It's the off season. He had a hard, good working season, Brady. So if he wants to enjoy himself a little as a guy in his early 20s with some decent cash, go for it.
No, and I don't think he paid a penny to get in the suite, man. That's family tickets right there. But what makes me laugh too is if anyone's like, "Oh, his heart's not in it," watch him play one shift in Ottawa, and you don't have to cherry pick any shifts. Any shift he plays in Ottawa, and there's zero concern that this guy wants anything but to win a Stanley Cup with the Ottawa Senators. There's zero. Like, this isn't like Mitch Marner. If Mitch Marner was doing this after a playoffs, like, you know what? Maybe I have some questions. But with Brady,
Mitch Marner would need someone to help lift that trophy up. Jesus, the little guy couldn't do it himself. And the thing is too, like, these days, like, everybody's got phones, everybody's got cameras, everybody can post anything. So, like, if athletes do anything notable, it's going to get filmed and posted. Like, what are you supposed to do if you don't win the Stanley Cup? Like, you're just supposed to hide in your house all summer? Like, I don't know. I think it's okay.
No, it's awesome, man. I love to see it, and can't wait to see Brady back on the ice with the Ottawa Senators. That's talking playoffs here on Locked On Senators, but we want to talk prospects, and we will touch a little bit more on the playoffs. I feel like it's almost time for another Sens Abroad scoring leader update, but we're not there yet. We're almost at the Stanley Cup Finals the way these series are going. One is up 3-0 with Florida, and the other one could be that tonight with Vegas having a 2-0 lead over Dallas. But it's prospect time here on Locked On Senators. And what's very interesting, Pilsy, is just how many of these top 6 prospects played games with the Ottawa Senators this past year, including the gentleman we're going to start with today. Coming in at number 6 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects, we're going with Jacob Bernard Docker. Pilsy, how would you describe the season that was for JBD?
You know, the first word that came to my mind, Ross, was underwhelming, but we've had this conversation before. You need to be reminded with Jacob Bernard Docker that when he's at his best, it may seem underwhelming, but he's one of those defensemen, a Chris Phillips-esque type guy. Didn't really notice him tonight. And he probably had a great game shift in and shift out because he's not going to do those highlight reel plays. He's not going to throw the body around. He's not going to have a big clapper from the point, anything like that. He's just going to make smart, simple plays, smooth skating, be sound positionally. Like, he's just one of those guys that I think provides stability without making too much noise. And that's hard to get excited about as a young prospect that is a first round pick from quite a while ago. And lots of people, myself included, has aspirations of him being a top pair partner for Thomas Chabot. And he hasn't quite broken through that ceiling yet. But for me, I think this season was just okay for Jacob Bernard Docker because him and Lassie Thompson are right there. But now Jacob Chychrun coming in and Eric Branstrom having a good season, Travis Hamonic likely coming back on a 1-year deal or something like that. Those spots are not readily available for Jacob Bernard Docker to capture in the NHL. So he's going to have to beat someone out. It's not about him proving himself. It's about him proving himself better than someone or multiple other defensemen.
And when we look at his AHL season, because we did give him an exit interview, he played games with the Ottawa Senators. Now we're pulling up a graphic with his Belleville numbers. 41 games in Belleville, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in 41 games, 38 shots on goal, 35 penalty minutes. Now, he was a +4. And if you go look at Belleville's plus minus, and I always have to preface it by saying plus minus, bogus stat if you're comparing apples with apples. But when you're also looking at a team's plus minus and one guy is an outlier, whether it's good or bad, I think that's when it's noteworthy. And for JBD, a +4 on a team where there's a lot of guys in the double negatives, that's impressive in its own sense. And you have to look at some underlying numbers, which the AHL doesn't readily provide, to be able to understand the value that Jacob Bernard-Docker would have. You mentioned from a couple of years ago, Pilsy, Brady Tkachuk was the same draft as Jacob Bernard-Docker. I think that kind of tells you the timeline. This guy's already through 2 years of an $8 million contract. Now, I know comparing a top 5 pick to a guy who was drafted in the mid-20s isn't necessarily fair, but it just kind of goes to show you that, you could do the direct comparison. The Sens traded back with the Rangers. Rangers got Keandre Miller. He's an established top 4 defenseman on a playoff team in the National Hockey League. So I'm not ready to give up on JBD. He is a restricted free agent going into this summer, but I do still think there's some upside for him to be a contributing member to an NHL team. It's a huge summer for him, though. I don't think we can state that enough. This is going to be his last time on a prospect list, whether he's moved, makes the jump to the NHL, or it's just kind of like, hey, you're 24 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he's a right shot defenseman that I think the Ottawa Senators probably value more than any other teams around the league because of the development they've put into him, and the Sens love their Nodak guys. And I'm with you. I'm not giving up on Jacob Bernard-Docker right now, but man, I would say this is his make or break season for if he's going to stay with the Ottawa Senators, because in my mind, at least one, maybe even both of JBD and Lassie Thompson has to be moved this year. You can't keep both of them. That I'm sure of. And one of them is going to have to prove themselves here.
And Jacob Bernard-Docker turns 23 in June. So when I said 24, I meant this is the make or break year. By next summer, we'll need to know what kind of the overall upside is for Jacob Bernard-Docker. All right, JBD comes in at number 6 on our list. Coming up next, we will get to the top 5. Stay locked on, Senators, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Pillsy, top 5 time, Sens prospect pool. There was a time where their 5th best prospect was like a top 6 guy. It might have even been Shane Pinto after the 2020 draft.
Yeah, like the Sens top 10 prospect after the 2020 draft, that list was immaculate.
It was stacked. And a reminder, people can go back and listen to that episode because you can listen to all 804 episodes of Locked On Senators on demand. You know what would be a fun one for people to go back and listen to? If you scroll, and you don't even have to scroll, if you go on Spotify, you can sort by oldest episodes first.
Okay.
I want to say the last episode we did before joining Locked On, and it is on that RSS feed. It is right there, is the immediate reaction to DJ Smith being hired as Sens head coach.
There we go. That would be appropriate for today. And Ross, I was going to say, I haven't seen too much backlash about people being mad at our list yet, which I don't know. Does that mean we're doing a good or a bad job of making this list?
Yeah, we should have thrown a complete 180 in here.
Just to see if people are paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah. So the list so far, Lassie Thompson at number 10, Levi Merilainen at number 9, Roby Järventie at number 8, Tyler Boucher at number 7, and Jacob Bernard-Docker coming in at number 6. Number 5 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects. It's the final Nodak Sen. For now, it's Tyler Kleven.
Yep, Tyler Kleven. He ends his career with the Nodak Sens, the last of the guard of the Nodak Sens. For now. And he gets a couple games in the NHL. And look, he was someone, Ross, that at least I'll speak for myself. I thought he was going to come in and be a force physically. Now the reins are off. You're not playing against college kids with refs that are under different circumstances than the NHL. I thought he was really going to impose his will. But as a young defenseman, the last thing you want to do is go for a big hit, take yourself out of the play, and find yourself sitting on the bench for longer than you'd hope along as the game goes along. So I really thought that he played a smart, responsible game. He didn't look out of place. Like, it wasn't imposter syndrome there. He just quietly went about his business. And I think if we're looking at Tyler Kleven, how his year went, it was a great success.
When we discuss Tyler Kleven's season, it has to be in two parts. There's the part where you mentioned NHL looks good, but in college, 35 games for him with North Dakota this year. His junior season, his third year with the Fighting Hawks, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points, 82 shots on goal, more than 2 per game, 84 penalty minutes, and was a +2. And it was an up and down year for North Dakota. They had some really tough losses throughout the year. It was an uncharacteristically bad season overall for them, but he was one of the bright spots on the back end. Really got to handle the puck a lot. Last summer, we were discussing that. Like being a third pair left shot guy, especially even when he was a second pair, you're playing behind Jake Sanderson. He's getting all of the power play 1 minutes. He's getting all of the shorthand. Like he's just such a well-rounded defenseman. There's not a whole lot of room to have the puck on your stick if you're a left side defenseman on North Dakota. So this year he was able to create a little lot more, get comfortable in situations where pressure's coming at him. And those are going to be huge assets to him going forward, where time and space is critical in pro hockey. So I think that this was an enormous season for Tyler to go back to North Dakota. I'm super happy he did. We were on the same page with that last year, Pilsy, where it's like, look, you have all these young defensemen coming up. No need to rush them. And I'm glad they waited. And you know what? At the time, it sucked. It still sucks that the Senators dealt with so much injury at the end of this season. But the fact it allowed Kleven to get his feet wet and play games down the stretch, I think that's going to be huge for his development going forward.
Yep, I would agree. I think it did work out for him specifically, but I think this is where we differ a little bit, Ross. I think it's more beneficial for him to spend a good chunk of time in Belleville next season. And like we mentioned, if prospects are getting called up to the NHL this year, it's not as a favor. You better help this team win games, and if you can't, you're going right back down. So I would like for him to get real top minutes. Like I would even like a pair of Kleven and Gannett playing in Belleville together. I think that'd be an interesting kind of yin and yang pair. So because he needs to play games. The thing is, in college, it's such a short season. To go to the pros, it's a big jump. And I think you can get a lot of help in not necessarily only on ice development, but off ice development too. It's a grind to be able to get your body mentally and physically prepared for all these games. So I think going to Belleville would do him a lot of good next season.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect place for him. I just spent long term in his development to be in Ottawa. You look at the Senators this past season, how many defensemen did they end up using? At
A
least,
lot.
I've actually got it here 10, 11, 12, 13. They used 13 defensemen this past year. And yeah, we're including the one game from Max Gannett. We're including Nikita Zaitsev, who's gone. I get it. There's turnover.
Lassie Thompson, 2 games.
Exactly. However, I do think that when you look at depth, this is the type of guy where it's huge, and he's got 2 years left on his entry level next season and the year afterward. So I'm just excited for Tyler Kleven. We didn't even get to see him throw the classic K-train hit, so there's a lot of room here to go for Tyler Kleven. And I mean, a couple assists, but with Tyler Kleven, we're still waiting on that first NHL goal as well. So I'm just excited for him to come up and play pro hockey a full season. But all in all, I would say a successful end to his college career, despite maybe the team not having the success that they're used to in Nodak.
I would agree. And I think that's why it was so important for him to go back to Nodak, because no Jake Sanderson, no Jacob Bernard Docker. He played a pivotal role there, and he got to experience what it's like to kind of have to put a decor on your shoulders. No offense to the other guys in Nodak, but he was their top guy, really. And he had to do a lot. He had to be a part of a lot of different situations. And I love this about Brad Berry. He had him playing the right side because, hey, look, there's only 6 defenseman jobs. If you only play the left side, you're only available for 3 jobs there. So why not? You're in college, try things, try to develop. And he got to play some time on the right side, so it makes him a little bit more versatile. So I'm very excited for Tyler Kleven's future with the Ottawa Senators.
Coming in at number 4 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects, a man between the pipes who played in probably more games than you would like to have seen in the NHL this season, and that's Mads Sogard, who was thrown into a precarious situation. Now, we did do him for our goalies of exit interviews to the NHL. So let's look at Mads Sogard's AHL numbers this season. Yikes. 22 games, 6 wins, 10 losses and 2 OT losses, a 347 goals against, and an 893 save percentage. No shutouts. What the heck happened in Belleville?
Yeah, not a great year in Belleville for Matt Sogard, unfortunately, Ross. I think, well, Sogard did have some injuries at the start of the year, so he didn't exactly hit the ground running.
First game.
Yeah, exactly. So it was tough for him to kind of get into the groove of things. And then he's the number one goalie in Ottawa before you know it, with injuries to Cam Talbot and Anton Forsberg, rather. And it's such a weird story. Like, I'm looking at Mad's game logs here, and there's not a lot of just like mediocre games, Ross. Like, there's not a lot of games where he lets 2 or 3 goals in. It's either 1 or above 4. Like, it seems like either he's dialed in or it's not working out for him. And we saw in the NHL, our guy Liams Martian would often comment on this. He's getting beat cleanly too often. And yes, you're a young goalie going to the NHL. The shots are faster, they're harder, the release points are better, the accuracy is better, everything's better. It's the best league in the world, of course. But when you're a guy that's 6'7", approaching 200 pounds, like, you'd think you could just get in the way of a lot of these shots and get a piece of them. But he was getting beat cleanly, no deflection, no screen, nothing, especially that high glove was an issue. So I think having Mads play a lot of games in the NHL was great for his development because now he knows what to expect. But I still would like for him to play a full season as the number one guy in Belleville.
What you just described there reminds me so much of early years Ben Bishop.
Okay, yeah.
Huge goalie. He would get beat over his shoulders. And I was like, how is this happening?
Yeah.
And look what happens when the Sens gave up on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's number 4 on this list. The potential of Mad Sogard versus some of these other guys on the list, it's more so like they're closer to the NHL, so we've got them a bit higher. With Mad Sogard, the potential is oozing. I don't know if he needs, like maybe a little more experience, if it's just a matter of time or what, but like you see in the games where he's locked in, man, this guy can play.
Yeah.
And he's a battler. Like, he doesn't give up on pucks. It's just the first shot. Like, often it's with goalies. It's like, how are you going to track the rebound? How are you going to kick rebounds away? I felt like his battle level was great. Rebounds, he was great. Maybe safe for that Colorado goal, which still should have been blowed down. But beyond that, it's really just first shot. And I feel like that's a more coachable aspect than getting your battle level or your focus. This guy, there's nobody more focused than Mad Sogard. You look at games where if you go to the rink early, maybe you're going for the dinner beforehand, peek into the rink, and an hour before the game, he's sitting on the bench by himself with his stick, just staring at it. And I don't know if he's almost like too focused. Like, we talk about this with Angus, where it's like, you guys, they're so dialed in that it's like one mistake and they get rattled. Like, even keel, but he's got his preparation. He's talked in the media about how he does the exact same thing before every game and has for a number of years. I'm not telling him to change his routine up, but I do think that the sky's like, there's still so much road left in Matt Sogard's development. He's 2019 draft pick, and we know goalies take longer to develop. Playing 19 NHL games this year, Pilsy, was not in the script of Mad Sogard's development, but hopefully he watches a ton of video this summer and can use it to his advantage and battle next year, because he realized this year anything can happen in the National Hockey League and pro hockey.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is, Ross, is when he got called after Anton Forsberg's injury in Edmonton, you look at the first 5 games he played, Ross, 4-0-1 with a .920 save percentage. Like, and I think
Rookie of the month in February.
Yeah, rookie of the month. And I think that was an unfortunate good stretch, because what happened there is, I think a lot of people did this, and I was careful about this. They said Matt Sogard is NHL ready. I think Pierre Dorion even thought that.
He said it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. And that's the issue, because at that point, Pierre Dorion was confident with Matt Sogard taking the reins of this team. And then Cam Talbot got hurt, and you didn't see any any veteran insurance option added, which, you know what, might have been the right thing. I'm not sure that this was the Sens year, so giving away future assets to bring in a rental veteran goalie maybe doesn't make the most sense, but it was just interesting to see how hot he started. And then with time, it's hard being in the pros. He ended up struggling a little bit more. But I just want to end off with saying, I know maybe I have positive Pillsy. I've mentioned a lot of negative comments about Sogard. I have the utmost belief in him, and I also believe his potential is through the roof. Just going to take time.
And he's at number 4 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects. Moving up to number 3, the lone player we're discussing today who did not play NHL games this regular season. It's Zach Ostapchuk, and his season has just come to a screeching halt, losing to the Seattle Thunderbirds with his Winnipeg Ice in a matter of 5 games. But it wasn't due to a lack of trying on his part. Playoff Zach might become a thing here, as Zach Ostapchuk's playoff resume is glowing. Last season with Vancouver had 23 points in 12 playoff games. This year, 9 goals, 15 points in 18 playoff games, including a penalty shot goal right in front of my very own eyes in the conference finals. Zach Ostapchuk split the season between Winnipeg and Vancouver, where he was the captain of the Giants before being traded to Winnipeg. 55 total games, 31 goals, 36 assists, good for 67 points, 177 shots on goal, 46 penalty minutes, and a plus 28. Pilsy, a lot of people think he could be a dark horse to make the Sens out of training camp next season.
I mean, he certainly is impressing in his final years in junior, and I don't have him quite there yet. I think going to Belleville would do him a lot of good as well. But Zach Ostapchuk, this is a guy that has a lot of great tools. He's someone that can move up and down the lineup, I think, even on a pro team, because he doesn't rely on one skill necessarily. He does it all. He's got speed. He's able to drive to the net with ease. He uses his size to get there. He's got a great shot. He's a good playmaker. He's got really good hockey IQ. And I think this guy, if you talk about, like, he's got a high floor and a high ceiling, in my opinion. Like, I expect a lot of good things from Zach Ostapchuk coming up here.
I think he's going to be a heck of a player. I know Nick Paul's a comparison a lot of people have made. I think that's fair, but he's just so big. He's unique. I don't want to put him. I think he skates a lot better, by the way, than Nick Paul does. He's a wildly successful defensive center, but can also score and make you pay in front of the net. He's going to be an NHL. There's no question in my mind. I know some people had questions whether any second day draft pick from the Ottawa Senators 2021 class would play NHL games. Well, Zach Ostapchuk has certainly flipped the script on that one as he looks poised to make the jump to pro hockey next season. And yeah, it's the complete package with him. He's got speed. What people had said going into the draft is maybe he doesn't get to the middle of the ice enough. Maybe he's going to be better suited at the wing. We saw him last training camp with Ottawa and preseason, center of the ice, just like Ridley Greg. Those were the two guys in the system where it's like, oh, do you move them to the wing? It doesn't seem like the Senators have any intention of doing that. They want these players to develop down the middle. Now, one thing I will note, you look at the production, it's all great, right? 67 points, 31 goals. If you compare that with Ridley Greg's last season, Ridley Greg had 63 points and only played 39 games. So when you expect him to make that jump, the points are not going to be like that in the NHL or AHL next season. It just simply won't. But man, an exciting prospect, 6'4", still kind of growing into his size. I would recommend everyone go check out Scott Wheeler's article on him with The Athletic. Very good kind of peek behind the scenes of how kind of tragedy and everything has really kind of elevated how he feels about the game. And he's going to be a stud. And I think he'll become a fan favorite in Ottawa.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think him showing off what he can do in a lesser role on Team Canada in the World Juniors is really eye-opening too, because he doesn't need to have 15 plus minutes of ice time to be effective. He's going to find ways to stay in the game, shift in and shift out.
Oh, can't wait to see him make the jump next season. Zach Ostapchuk comes in at number 3 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects. Coming in at number 2, best friend of the show, it's Igor Sikorsky. I mean, come on. You look at what he did in the last NHL call-up. We did our exit interview with him. But when we bring up the AHL stats, Pilsy, run through these. I just want to sit back and listen.
Yep, Igor Sikorsky. yet again led the Belleville Senators in scoring. 70 games played, 21 goals, 38 assists, good for 59 points. He's getting the puck on net with 163 shots. Like most of Belleville, was a dash 15, but this is a guy who was always known for his shot and his goal scoring ability. And the coaching staff and development team of the Senators said, hey, look, we know you can score goals, but you got to round out your game here. And I think he showed that he could do that, definitely. And he still was an effective player in Belleville, and he got a chance to come up in Ottawa. And even though it wasn't a lot of minutes a night and not that many games, he still made an impact. So another great season in the development for our guy, Igor.
He's officially graduated from the AHL as far as I'm concerned. I don't need to see him go back there for another minute.
I'm with you. Yeah. What more does he have to prove down there? And does that mean we think he's going to secure the roster spot in the NHL for sure? Not necessarily. There's a lot of guys battling for those spots, and Igor's going to have another good offseason. He trained hard last season, was disciplined, and he's going to have a better training camp this year than he did last year. And I believe he's got that in him, especially Ross. Now that he's got a better taste of the NHL, he got his first goal. He got his first point, also a goal and assist. So he's ready to make that jump. And I think we're going to see it.
And Lord knows there's going to be injuries throughout a season. Can you just do me a favor, whoever's the head coach of the Ottawa Senators next year, at least for 3 games in the preseason, put him with either Pinto,
yes,
with Norris, or with Timmy. Just for give me a little taste in preseason. Yes. I want to see Igor get 15 to 18 minutes a game in preseason.
Agreed.
I know that when you're looking at how you're building a team, these coaches are like, I want to see how he'll do in 8 minutes, because in a regular season game, that's what's more likely. But in a preseason game, you also want to see what kind of skill you're working with, and it's harder to do it in a short period of time. So just let the leash roll out a little bit. Get one of those retractable leashes that my dog loves so much, not the ones that you have a certain limit. Let this guy breathe. Let him use his wheels a little bit more. Let him get in on the forecheck, and yet his shot is the key attribute that we need to see from Igor going forward. So I have a ton of faith in him. This guy's led the Belleville Sens in scoring for multiple years. He's the all-time leading scorer in the organization, more than Drake Batherson, more than Josh Norris. This guy is ready to make the jump. Igor Sikorsky comes in, and I mean, the guy's in love now. He's got a fiance. He's got a family to feed. Let's go. This guy's playing for keeps now. Get this guy in the mix. Igor Sikorsky, number 2 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects. All right, Pilsy, coming in at number 1. And we should remind everyone, if you want to hear more, we did a full breakdown on Igor. We did a full breakdown on Mads. We did all this with the NHL as the main scope. But now we're looking at the AHL scope. And coming in at number 1 on our list of top 10 Sens prospects, Pilsy, a little drum roll. Riddle me this, riddle me that. It's Ridley Greg.
Ridley Greg. I mean, Ridley effing Greg. What a draft pick. And this is a guy that screams Ottawa Senators scouting, because he's someone that, shocker, Ross, his father played professional hockey. The Ottawa Senators love that, I know. And he's someone that you can tell he's a good person off the ice, and he's got the right mindset, and he's focused on hockey. I mean, he's drinking 5 protein shakes a day trying to get his weight up so that he can hang around with the big boys in the NHL. And he's someone that can provide some grit, but also if he gets time and space with the puck, he's going to score goals. And he came in hot to the NHL with 8 shots in his first game. So I think he really does have the inside track to get a spot on this team. I think he showed a lot in the NHL, and I think he showed a lot in Belleville as well, especially as the season went on.
Pilsy, this is the question that we want to focus this segment on. What would be better for Ridley Greg? Moving to the wing and playing in the NHL, or playing top line center again in the AHL?
I think if you get him on that third line with Pinto and Joseph, I think that's best for his development. Just because, Ross, I almost think his development is already stunted just because of that ridiculous CHL-NHL agreement. Now, I get why the CHL wants that in place, but I think there should be some exceptions, and Ridley Greg should have been an exception there. This guy should have been on his second pro season, if you ask me, because You mentioned his stats in his last WHL season.
A joke.
It was a joke. He's just dominating down there. So I almost said it's a waste of time, but
Pilsy, let's just let the people in, because we talked about, I know it's last season, but 39 games, 63 points, 92 penalty minutes, and 180 shots on goal in 39 games.
yeah, I mean, what's he doing down there? So I think he's got the mentality, and hopefully another off season of training, bulking up, he can get a little more size. And I think really, I've always seen Ridley Greg as more of a winger than a centerman anyways, and there's no center positions left in Ottawa as far as I'm concerned. All four are accounted for and everybody's slotted in perfectly, so I'd like to see him on the wing.
And you can never have too many centers naturally, because if there is injuries down the middle, you can slide someone right over. Ridley Greg played 39 games in Belleville last season, had 15 goals, 14 assists for 29 points, 74 shots on goal, 46 penalty minutes, and was a minus 14, which is pretty common with the AHL Belleville Sens. One thing I do want to note, though, with Ridley's AHL stats, this guy has some of the hottest stretches I've ever seen, where it's like he had 7 points in 4 games. Or sorry, there was a stretch in the middle of, like, right when 2022 turned to 2023, where he went 2 goals, goal and an assist, goal and an assist. So that's 9 points in 5 games. This guy, there were a couple stretches where maybe when he came back right away from an extended time in Ottawa, it was a little bit tough to get his feet back under him. He had goals in back-to-back games to end the year, but he only had 2 points in his or 2 goals and no assists in his last 6 games of the season. Was -4 in the final game. So I'm not saying he's a lock to make the team. I do think there would be value in him being the number 1 center in Belleville to start the season again. Undisputed number 1 center. He worked his way up, and with the injuries to Chartier and others, there was room for that in Belleville, but I also wouldn't be mad if he's a third or fourth line winger in the NHL. I just don't want to limit his upside. I just know there is so much there. And when he grows to, when he's 25, 26 years old, Pilsy, he's going to be a complete menace. And I don't think the Sens should be in a rush for him to get there.
Yeah, just to clarify my answer, if he's not playing third line wing, I think I would rather have him playing top 6 center in Belleville, because you said undisputed, Ross, but Roby Yarventi looked pretty damn good as a top line center in Belleville, so he may have some competition down there.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to find out. But one thing's for sure, Sens fans, you're lucky that Ridley Gregg's in the organization, because he'd be pissing you off every single night otherwise. And that is just another piece of the puzzle that I think he's going to add more to. He was being a bit annoying, but nowhere near what we saw in the WHL, where he's launching guys sticks into the 30.
Even AHL, Ross.
Yeah, taking on Kyle Clifford, having some fun down there. We heard that story with our interview with Igor Sikorsky last time we had him on the show. Interview season is going to be July and August. Let us know in the comments whenever who you want to hear on the Ottawa Senators unofficial podcast, Locked On Senators, right here. That's our top 10 prospect list. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll pull up the entirety of the list right now. The top 10 Sens prospect. If we had to boil down our honorable mentions, of which we did 8 on Friday, I would say Halliday, Pettersson, and Nordberg are probably the 3 that are either closest to making the jump to the top 10 or the ones that we're most excited about. Then we have Lassie Thompson at number 10, Levi Merilainen at number 9, Roby Yarventi at number 8, Tyler Boucher at number 7, Jacob Bernard Docker at number 6. The top 5, Pilsy, read them off.
Top 5, we've got Tyler Kleven, Mads Sogard, Zach Tapchuk, Igor Sikorsky, and number 1, Ridley Greg.
Don't be afraid to get mad at our list. This isn't right nor wrong. We just want to be able to present you the information. Make sure you're a little bit more incited on maybe some prospects that you didn't know much about going into this process, because they could be making an impact going forward. You know, when a team does kind of flip to being a competitive team, you need entry-level contracts. And there's some guys in here that you might be relying on to get a lot of production on for cheap over the next couple of years. So, Pilsy, out of these 10 names on our prospect list, if you had to identify a guy who's going to be higher than where they are this year, when we do this next December, who do you think that has the most potential of being?
You know what? I'm going to go with Roby Yarventi. I just mentioned him, and down at 8, there's a lot of good players ahead of him, but he's so young. People forget how young he is, and he has so much skill, and now that he's emerged as a guy that can play center, I think that's going to up his value a lot, and his shot and his size are such huge attributes. I think we're going to see him move up the list here.
I'm going to say Tyler Boucher. If this guy comes into pro hockey
Nice.
here and has 10 to 12 goals, maybe the same amount of assists, and he's playing physical and staying healthy and staying disciplined by Christmas, this guy's going to be a no-brainer to jump up from where he is at number 7 right now. All right, Pills, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me are, everybody, just the weather's good. Sens ownership is going to get figured out. Positive Pillsy here. Just have yourself a great day.
Absolutely well said, Pillsy. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.